Here's some more content for the Reincarnation Soul Trap community. Not much more to say than that. Enjoy the video, guys.
Let's talk about the false light. Because did you know, Brian, that there are schools of thought that say when we die and go into the light, it's not actually the motherfucking light. What it actually is either another vaginal tunnel that we are making our way down so that we can be born into another life, which personally I don't want, or it is like a light that we enter into in order to get processed, restructured, so that we can then opt in somehow to be reincarnated again. And I remember listening to Art Bell back in the day, and he had somebody on, and I forget who it was, but he said that the moon was part of this whole process that was like this big magnet that helped to collect our souls. And also I read the books of Robert Monroe, and he talked about while he was doing astral projection, he could see all of these souls around the earth that were just trapped and stuck and unable to move on, and that there were entities, Brian, that were utilizing the energy and the vibration of humanity in order to feed their pernicious and insatiable appetites. We could call these archons, as the Gnostics did.
And I think, there was someone who was talking about these beings can't get into these elevated realities, dimensions. So they use us to keep coming back to just sort of feed off of us.
Yeah.
Weird?
It is weird, but I can see it. And I think it's so often that our popular science fiction tracks with spiritual truths and trends. And so, I think that I was watching a clip on some subreddit of Captain Janeway. I was talking to you.
Yes,
Captain Janeway
yes.
had an experience with the Archons or something who were trying to deceive her into dying and going with them to another place. And
I remember that. That was a powerful episode, one of the best ones.
we should go back and watch it because apparently it's a parallel to what could happen when we die. And of course, the Tibetan Book of the Dead also speaks about this false light. Like when you die, don't go into the light. Instead, go into the vast unknown or go into the dark, really. Although I have to read the Tibetan Book of the Dead. I haven't read the whole thing, and so I could be speaking out of my butt.
Well, let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Take a moment and really tune in, okay? And think about you are dead and the light is there and there, you know, your family comes to commune with you and tell you we will take you into this light, but you don't want to do it because these people are telling you, some people are telling you have to. You know, they show you your whole life and they show you all the darkest things you've ever done. You have to go back. You have to make amends for this, but you really want to go the other way. So without you reading the whole Book of the Dead and knowing everything, but just energetically, I mean, I've always been one to want to blaze my own trail. I don't think if a million people are telling me, come, I'd be like, but I haven't explored any of this. I think I would want to do that. And knowing that that's a possibility based on, you know, what has been presented, I think that would be my choice. I would say, thank you, no thank you. I'm just going to hang out and go somewhere else.
I think so, but like consider all of the people on the planet who have been so thoroughly indoctrinated into religion and who are going to die and expect to see Mother Mary or Buddha or Jesus or Allah.
Well, they will, right?
Or Muhammad. Well, they could.
I mean, that's, yeah.
If this is a programmed system, then they are going to, then conceivably they could pass, see Jesus and follow Jesus because that's my dog Jesus. And so I'm going to follow Jesus into the light and go through the entire thing. And I can trust Jesus. And if Jesus says, well, I got to go back to the earth to live another life to make up for the sins of this life, well, then I'm going to do that. And so I think that there is a level of indoctrination and programming that would allow people to continue to be processed. And I think that's why it is important for everybody to get to know thyself through meditation and through your own exploration of the inner world. But when you think about it, Brian, this great archontic or archonic system of the matrix, right? There's the saying, as above, so below. And so why would that just suddenly go away when you die? wouldn't there just be another example of the same sort of a system that you would have to, through free will, exit out of, just like we have to exit out of this world and opt out in many ways spiritually, right? We have to opt out of different ways of thinking. We have to train ourselves with our inner narratives, our beliefs. We have to do all of this refinement in this life. Well, when we pop out of the body, it kind of makes sense that we would continue to have to do that processing through our own individual awareness, though.
Which changes when you die, because now you're not thinking 3D. You're now sort of part of the collective. You know what I mean? You're part of the consciousness. If all of these people have been indoctrinated and think that way, then are you still thinking that way? If
Right.
you join the hive or whatever. Like, that's where I'm a little fascinated, because we talked a bit, you and I just talked about like soul contracts and having these karma people tell you, no, you have to go back because you were a horrible person and you got to make up for all that shit. And I'm like, no. And I told you right then, I'm like, I'm going to cut I have no contracts in this life that I brought from another life, because that was that experience. I'm here having a whole new experience. Now, I might have agreed back then, but I don't agree now. Revoke, cancel, delete, delete. I don't want any of that, because this is my dimension, right? This is my place. I have dominion here.
Sovereign.
So no, I will not accept any of that.
And that, I think, is important to this idea of the false light and this archontic structure, like for you to know your own divinity and understand that you have sovereign free will. You can do whatever the F you want to do. And so I think some of the teaching out there is, once you go into the light, you are then processed with the afterlife review, and you see everything that you've done, and you in particular experience all of the bad things that you've done and the way that you've hurt someone. You actually feel it from that person's vantage point. I mean, near-death experience after near-death experience after near-death experience does testify that this happens, and it happens almost universally. Well, the theory is that they show you all of these things that you did wrong so that you will feel inherently compelled to make things right karmically. Like, let me go back into another life, or hypothetically, let me go back into the same life and try to do it over again so I can not hurt these people and I can not do these things that I shouldn't have done. And I can see people, if you are experiencing this afterlife review in a feeling way, like I can actually feel how I hurt Brian. And oh my gosh, I feel so bad for that because I'm a compassionate and loving entity, right? I can see how people might be duped to say, yeah, let me go back in. Or I understand that I did it wrong. I have to go again. But I could see myself, first of all, not going into the light unless it's magnetic and I have to. If I do go into the light, well, I mean, I don't know. That's the thing. But if I go into a past life review, though, that part of it, I will not be guilted into reincarnating. Just won't be. I'll be like, okay, I made those mistakes, but I learned a lot. Everything's valuable. I refuse to go back in.
I'm not going. I'm going to tell you right now. Nope.
Well,
it would have to be a magnet completely sucking me in and me having no control over going. If it's not, I will either hang where I'm at, I will look around and see wherever else I feel compelled to go, but I'm not going into that light, Carol Ann.
So you're not going to go into the light at all?
No, I don't think so. I don't right now, I'll tell you, I don't feel it. That blew my mind, because that sort of reaffirmed things that I've been thinking, where I'm in control of it all. It's me. Mm-hmm. It's no one else but me, and I will not be manipulated. I've been manipulated, and I don't like it. Will not be manipulated again. I don't care who shows up. I'll be like, thank you for coming to see me. Bye-bye.
Allegedly, they dose you with turbo ecstasy, bliss, and love so that you're just enraptured with Jesus or with your mother standing before you, and you feel like, I'm coming home. It feels so good that you believe it to be true, and then boom, you're getting recycled. Whereas I think, though, Christ said, you will know them by their fruit. You will know them by their fruit. And I've always kept that with me. And it stands true in absolutely everything, Brian. If I'm at the Starbucks and I'm talking to somebody and they're putting on a good show, I will know them, though, by their frequency. I will know them by their energy, and the fruit of whatever it is that they're doing. So I feel like if we find ourselves popped out of the body in the astral, and I am suddenly attended by Jesus, I will know. I will know underneath and above and around that frequency who this being really is. And I also know if I tell them, if I declare a thing, they have to do it, because that's a thought reality. Like in anything I think or envision or want, boom, I get it. So I will tell them to show me your real form. Show me who you actually are. Who am I speaking to, so that I can see them as they are? I believe that we can ask and that they would have to.
Yeah,
show.
I agree. Absolutely agree.
But like what worries me is that so many of us fall for it. Like, is it real sticky? Is it a really hard system to get out of? You know, the Tibetan Book of the Dead, here's what they tell you in chapter 10 of the book that I have. The monks say, at the time of your death, to imagine your anus, and if you have a vagina, your vagina as blocked or plugged up, so that your soul cannot escape your body through any of these orifices, or that it can't fully escape the body, but only through the crown of the head. Because when it comes out the crown of the head, I'm inferring there's a different awareness and a different, grid structure maybe that you find yourself in. Whereas if you're coming out of your anus or of your butt, that's funny. But if you're coming out of your vagina, that's funny too. Then you maybe the vibe of that, maybe the frequency of that is something that you additionally have to overcome. But the Tibetans say, like, plug it up. You know, my uncle, when he died, he was attended by many Tibetan monks who traveled a far distance to pray for him as he was dying. And I imagine that they were probably imagining these orifices plugged up and just trying to condition him to pop out correctly. And then after he died, they stayed with him an additional 3 to 7 days, I forget how long, just to pray as he wandered in that darkness that we're talking about. Because instead of going into the light, I believe he went somewhere else, and they were actually helping him, because when you're in the astral, the 4th dimension, it's a turned around kind of reality, and you can kind of get stuck there if you don't know what you're doing. So through the help of those monks who were just talking to him as he's wandering, they were trying to help him to get out of the matrix and into the bliss. But let's talk about the Lords of Karma.
Yes, let's talk about the Lords of Karma.
So the Lords of Karma are the beings that present to you upon your death. And they will often masquerade as angels and masquerade as loved ones, ancestors, Jesus, and the like. And these are the beings that escort you into the further system where you are ultimately recycled. The goal is to unmask them. The goal is not to follow them. But see, what if all of this isn't true? Like, what if the countless near-death experiences of people who did go into the light and felt nothing but absolute love and bliss and the touch of God?
Because they were dosed. Doesn't it feel almost right that that's not necessarily the way to go?
Yes.
There are so many other possibilities, so many other places to go. Why do you have to come back? Like, I feel like if you've done this, you've done it. There's no point in coming back. You've already done it. You've lived a life. The only reason to come back, to me, would be someone's undue influence on you telling you had to. And I feel like, no. I mean, yes, we all make mistakes. We try to be better people. But this experience is this experience. So when it's over, it's over. Like, that is how I am now looking at it. That this is just over. So I hope that my vibes are fantastic when I go, because I'm not going that way. I'm going to see what else is going on. I'm going to find something that just feels right to me.
Well, it gets even
weirder. And if those people come to me, I'm going to tell them.
Well, what if it is your mom, though? What if it is your mama?
I'll be like, hey, mama, hey, person, show me your true self. Show me what you really look like. And if it's my mama, but see, it wouldn't be. I think because we love the people that die. We want to see the people that we die because we've been told that is the goal, to be reunited. But it wouldn't be your mother, right? It would be energy. Mm-hmm. And it would have to feel familial, right? It wouldn't be like my mother coming before me. I think it would just be energy. And does it feel like how my mother made me feel when we were here? But that could also be deceiving too. That's why I'd be like, show me your true self. And if you don't look anything like my mama, if you don't feel like my mama, you're not the mama.
I mean, I think that a lot of this feels like fear porn. like dark mythology that we just get off on as humans. Like, we got to continue to escape from New York once we die. You know, we're still on this prison planet. In fact, there is a subreddit called Escape Prison Planet. Also, the Saturn Time Cube subreddit, where they feel like Saturn is, and David Icke actually talks about how Saturn is what is projecting the signals of our oppression. Really, and so is the moon. It's like a satellite that keeps us kind of stuck in this realm. A lot of that feels like dark science fiction to me. I don't know how much of that is true, but like when you take it all the way back to the Tibetan Book of the Dead, the Egyptian Book of the Dead, and how people in ancient societies created protocols to pass through the afterlife, like you probably should think about it. And here's what I want to say is that within us exist internal dimensions and also access points and doorways into higher dimensional, higher being, you know, there's no hierarchy here, but deeper dimensional experiences. When you spend time meditating and spending time sidling up to source so that you know, you're familiar with what that feels like, those inner dimensions, like the kingdom of heaven is within, is what Christ said. When you spend time on earth acquainting yourself and familiarizing yourself with what that dimension feels like, it's a lot easier, I think, once you pop out of the body to get the homing signal to go back there.
Yes, absolutely. Because we're like magnets, right? If you're vibrating here and it's vibrating here, you're going to find each other.
So there is that article by Cameron Day, which I sent to you, which the first article talks about why he no longer calls himself a light worker. The second article is about the Lords of Karma. And I will drop a link in the description of this podcast and also in the description of this video if you want to check out this article, because he talks about how you can set about revoking all of these agreements and contracts. Because based on what Cameron Day says and many other people, when you come in to this incarnation, you bring with you all of these contracts and agreements that are truly imposed upon you by this matrix, by this archontic matrix. And we don't have to operate and exist under these agreements. They were imposed upon us against our awareness and our free will ultimately. And so there's a process that you can go through to start breaking those agreements, revoking them, and really pushing them out of your energy and your system. I don't know about you, but I got myself into my dominion and my sovereignty, and I revoked everything. And I'm going to, and if I feel it, if I feel some karma, some cords trying to enter in and influence me, boop, sever, revoke. I think that there's so many different layers to the things that other entities might be doing to keep us where they want us. No, sir,
and that's
no,
why
ma'am.
you have to unmask them. You have to demand that they show you their true self. And when you see that they're like a 10-headed hydra, you know, oh, no, I'm not following you into that light, hydra.
It's all like, it all makes sense. Like the Israelites wandered for 40 years. Like they had to find their way to the promised land. They had to intuit their way to the promised land. And it might be that when we pass, we're going to have to put some intention into it to figure out where we want to go and what we want to do. Now, this entire teaching and idea is just offered, listeners and viewers, for your consideration. I have not died yet, although actually, I did have a near-death experience.
I have.
You have had a near-death? Oh my gosh. Okay, so did you see any of that business? Did you see any of that false light? Did you see any of those Lords of Karma?
Well, I didn't say anything to them because I did not have that awareness then. This was quite some time ago. However, I can tell you, and what was interesting is I was heading that way because I felt a tingle here, kind of here, not even in the solar plexus. It was up almost heart. And I was going, which then tells me now that it was just emotion leading me, not truth. But I was heading that way, but about half, and here's the thing, I mean, it's like I was in a big black space and there was like light down there and I could feel like I was moving towards it, but it kind of felt like it was coming towards me. So what's the illusion? I don't know, but I can tell you that maybe halfway to either it was coming to me or I was going to it, about halfway, I felt an oh hell no feeling.
Did you?
Like, no, this is wrong. Like it felt absolutely wrong. And at the minute I had that discernment, bam, I was back. And here's the thing, I'm going and I'm like, this is lovely. Oh,
right,
all my loved ones.
You're on the cosmic dilaudid.
And then all of a sudden it was like, oh, this is wrong. This is so wrong. And I mean, and I felt like I said it, even though I know I was just in energy form. But I mean, I remember this is so wrong. And bam, I was back. And it was like, I woke up.
Wow.
And I was like, But now having all of this information makes total sense. For me, it's my thoughts.